My name is Harper, and if you had asked me a year ago who I trusted most in the world, besides my daughter, I would have said Denise. No hesitation. Denise had been my best friend since grade school, the kind of friendship built over decades, weathering everything from awkward teenage crushes to the chaos of motherhood. We were inseparable, our lives intertwined so tightly that people sometimes mistook us for sisters. Our daughters, Emma and Lily, were just as close, born only a few months apart and raised side by side. They didn't remember a time when they weren't in each other's lives. Holidays, birthdays, school projects, sleepovers, it was always the four of us. Denise and I used to joke that our bond would outlast anything. We believed we'd grow old watching our girls grow into women, cheering them on at college graduations, helping plan their wedding someday. We laughed about it. We were so sure. But I never imagined the storm would come from her. It started on a Tuesday afternoon in early spring. Denise called me, her voice lit up with excitement. She had booked herself a solo vacation to Bali, a dream trip. She sounded lighter than I'd heard her in months. "I just need time to reset, you know," she said, her words bubbling over. "Yoga on the beach, quiet mornings, fresh fruit. I'm finally doing something for myself." I told her I was proud of her. Everyone needs to recharge. And when she asked if Lily could stay with us for the week, I said yes without even thinking. Lily practically lived at our house anyway, and it didn't feel like a favor. It felt natural. Normal. The first couple of days were fun. Our house was filled with noise and laughter. Music blaring, popcorn bowls emptying faster than I could refill them, nail polish spread across the living room table. Emma and Lily were two halves of the same soul. They whispered and giggled deep into the night, falling asleep with their heads pressed together like sisters. But by the third evening, something changed. I had made spaghetti for dinner, Lily's favorite, and called the girls downstairs. Only Emma came. She looked uneasy, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "Where's Lily?" I asked. "She said she didn't feel well," Emma murmured. "She's been in bed since lunch." I wiped my hands and went upstairs, a soft worry forming in my chest. I knocked gently, then opened the door. At first glance, it looked like Lily was sleeping, curled on her side under the covers. But as I stepped closer, dread twisted in my gut. Her face was too pale. Her breathing? Shallow. And then I saw the empty pill bottle on the floor beside her bed. Time froze. I don't remember screaming, but Emma said I did. I know my hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone while calling 911. The operator's voice was calm, asking questions I barely understood. The paramedics arrived within minutes, pushing past me with their gear while I held Emma, who was sobbing against my chest. I rode in the ambulance, gripping Lily's cold hand, whispering, "You're going to be okay," over and over like a prayer. At the hospital, they rushed her into the ICU. Machines beeped, nurses moved fast, and I stood in the hallway feeling completely useless. I didn't want to leave, but I needed to call Denise. Her voice answered with a laugh. I could hear waves in the background, the faint clink of silverware. "Hey, everything okay?" I told her everything, every awful detail. The pill bottle, the ambulance, the hospital. There was a pause. Then she sighed. "She's probably doing it for attention," she said, as if we were talking about spilled milk. "What?" I asked, stunned. "Lily's always been dramatic, Harper," she replied, completely unfazed. "She probably just wants a little reaction." "She's in the ICU," I said, my voice breaking. "She almost died." There was another pause. Then, "Well, you're all ready with her, right? I'll check in later." That was it. "No, which hospital?" "No." "Can I talk to her?" "No, I'm coming home." I stood there holding the phone, listening to the dial tone after she hung up. Something inside me cracked wide open. I couldn't understand how a mother could be so cold. That night, I sat beside Lily's hospital bed for hours, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest. Machines kept her breathing steady, her heart rate monitored, her life hanging in quiet tension. Emma stayed with my sister. I didn't want her near the sterile walls and haunting quiet of the ICU. Around 3 a.m., Lily stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, glassy, confused, full of sadness. I called for the nurse, then gently reached for her hand. She looked at me. "Is my mom coming?" she whispered. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Not yet, sweetheart." Her lower lip quivered. "She never wants me around anyway." I gripped her hand tightly. "That's not true." But she shook her head. "She says I ruin things. I need too much. That I make her tired." Tears filled her eyes, then spilled freely. She broke into sobs, gasping out years of pain in broken pieces. She always felt like a burden. How her mom smiled more for strangers than she ever did for her. She sometimes wondered if disappearing would be easier for everyone. I listened in silence, aching. My heart shattered for her. I stroked her hair. "You are not a burden, Lily. You are loved. And you matter. So much." She cried until she fell asleep, still clutching my hand. By morning, I knew nothing could ever be the same. When the doctors finally discharged Lily, they emphasized rest, therapy, and emotional safety. Without hesitation, I told them she'd stay with me. I signed the discharge papers, loaded her gently into my car, and brought her home. She was quiet on the ride, eyes watching the world outside like she no longer belonged in it. At home, Emma rushed out and hugged her like she was holding something fragile and precious. Lily let her. That night, I tucked her into the guest room, brewed some chamomile tea, and left the door cracked open. Just in case. Denise returned 2 days later. She swept into my living room in a long floral kaftan, tan glowing, hair braided in beachy waves. She looked like a resort ad, rested, glowing, oblivious. Her eyes landed on Lily, wrapped in a blanket on the couch, staring blankly at the TV screen beside Emma. And for a second, just a flicker, I thought I saw something pass through Denise's face. A flash of discomfort, guilt, shock. I couldn't tell. But she didn't rush to her daughter. She didn't cry or run to hold her. She just stood there, like Lily was an unexpected guest. And that told me everything I needed to know. "You look fine," Denise said sharply as she walked through my front door, letting her designer bag drop carelessly to the floor. Her tone was flat, almost annoyed. "See?" I knew she was just being dramatic. My heart was pounding. I looked at Lily, still curled on the couch, pale and small under the throw blanket. She didn't even glance at her mother. Her eyes stayed fixed on the television screen, pretending not to hear. But I knew she had. I felt the quiet tension press in like a fog. I stood there between them, unsure of what to expect next. An apology? A hug? A tearful reunion? But Denise didn't even look at Lily again. She turned her attention to me. "And you," she said, her voice sharp and accusing. "What the hell were you thinking, Harper? Keeping my daughter here? Parenting her like she's yours? Who gave you the right?" I held my ground, trying to stay composed even as my hands trembled. "I didn't keep her, Denise," I said softly. "She needed someone. She needed safety, and she needed love. She's not your child, Harper." "No," I replied evenly. But someone had to act like her mother when her actual one was doing yoga on a beach while she was nearly dying in a hospital bed. That made her flinch. Barely, but the moment passed quickly. Her face hardened again. "You've always wanted to be the savior," she snapped. "Always inserting yourself into everything. This time, you crossed a line." I was about to respond, but a quiet voice interrupted us. "You told people I was just doing it for attention." We turned toward the hallway. Lily had followed us into the kitchen, her voice so soft and fragile it made my chest ache. Denise spun toward her. "That's not what I—" "You did," Lily cried, her voice cracking. "You told Aunt Marla. You posted it online. You said I was being dramatic because I hate being alone. You said it was all for attention." Tears streamed down her face as her body shook with emotion. She turned and bolted up the stairs before anyone could stop her. A few seconds later, we heard the bathroom door slam shut, followed by the unmistakable click of the lock. Denise moved to go after her, but I stepped into her path. "Don't,"
I said.
Leave her alone. I'm her mother. Then act like it. Denise's face twisted in fury. She yanked out her phone and held it up like a weapon. You're going to regret this, Harper. I'm calling the police. You're not taking my daughter from me. My eyes widened. What are you talking about? But she was already on the call. Yes, she told the dispatcher. My daughter is being kept from me. She's being held against my will. She's not allowed to leave. Yes, I believe it qualifies as kidnapping. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Standing in my kitchen, being accused of abducting a child I had saved. It was surreal. 20 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. One of them was Officer Martinez. The same man who had responded the night Lily was rushed to the hospital. His expression softened the moment he saw me. Denise wasted no time. She launched into her performance, complete with trembling hands and tears just barely welling in her eyes. She's obsessed, she said, pointing at me. She always has been. I let Lily stay here for a few days, and Harper manipulated her. She made her think I don't care. My daughter is confused, scared. She needs her real mother. Officer Martinez turned to me. May we speak to Lily?
She's upstairs.
Locked herself in the bathroom. She was shaken up after her mother's comments. A CPS caseworker had arrived with the officers and quietly followed Martinez up the stairs. They knocked gently, waited, and after a few tense moments, we heard the bathroom door unlock. I sat on the edge of the couch, wringing my hands. Denise was pacing, muttering under her breath about how she was going to sue me, destroy me, and make sure I lost custody of my daughter, too. I said nothing. I just waited. After nearly 30 minutes, Martinez and the CPS worker returned to the living room. She's staying here, Martinez said calmly. We're granting a 72-hour emergency placement while an investigation is conducted. Lily has requested to remain in Harper's care. Denise looked stunned.
What?
You can't do that. She's my child. We've heard both sides, said the CPS worker. And in light of what your daughter shared, this is the best course of action for now. Denise stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I wished that had been the end of it, but it was only the beginning. That night, Denise posted a carefully curated photo of her and Lily from a vacation last year, complete with a dramatic caption. When your closest friend turns on you, pray for my daughter. She's being manipulated by someone who thinks she knows better than a mother. #heartbroken, #pray for us. The comments poured in. Some people offered support. Others were confused. A few sent me hateful messages. One said, "You've always been jealous of Denise. Just give her daughter back." I didn't respond. I didn't post a thing. Instead, I called my sister Kendall. She'd been a family law attorney for over a decade. I told her everything from the first call about Bali to the police showing up in my kitchen. She listened without interrupting. Start documenting everything, she said when I finished. Screenshots, texts, timestamps. If she escalates this, we'll need every detail. She paused before adding, and Harper, you did the right thing. Don't doubt that for a second. That night, I tiptoed into the guest room. Lily was asleep, one of Emma's old stuffed animals nestled under her chin. I pulled the blanket higher on her shoulders and kissed her forehead. I didn't care what Denise said or posted. I wasn't letting this girl fall through the cracks. The custody hearing was scheduled a week later. I sat outside the courtroom in a stiff wooden chair, flanked by my lawyer, /Monica, on one side and Lily on the other. Emma stayed home with Kendall. Lily held my hand tightly. She was quiet, eyes darting down the hallway every time footsteps echoed. Inside the courtroom, Judge Patel presided over the hearing. Denise sat across from us in a neatly pressed navy dress, her makeup subtle, her posture perfect. She looked like the image of a grieving mother. But when she glanced at Lily, trying to summon tears, Lily looked away. The judge reviewed the CPS report, the police documentation, and medical records. After a few questions and closing statements, she made her ruling. The child, Lily Morgan, will remain in the temporary custody of Ms. Harper Hastings. All contact with her biological mother, Ms. Denise Morgan, will be supervised until further notice. Denise's facade cracked. Just for a second. The weeks that followed were draining. Denise showed up to every supervised visit dressed like a magazine ad. Heels, lipstick, designer scarves. She brought extravagant gifts. Spoke in overly sweet tones. "Mommy misses you, baby," she would coo. "You miss Mommy too, don't you?" Lily gave polite answers, never more than a few words. Her body was stiff. Her smiles, when they happened, were only for Emma. The visit supervisors noted it all. And I kept the door open. I documented everything. And I never stopped reminding Lily she was safe now. No matter how long this battle lasted, I wasn't going anywhere. Just when I thought Claire couldn't stoop any lower, she did. She walked into the next custody hearing with someone I hadn't seen in over a decade, Mark Anderson, Julia's father. He looked as out of place as a violinist at a heavy metal concert, stiff in an ill-fitting blazer, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, eyes darting to avoid mine, Julia's, everyone's.
Claire, however, looked smug.
Triumphant, as if she were playing her final ace. "We're requesting a delay in proceedings," her attorney announced with too much confidence. "Mr. Anderson is Julia's biological father, and he would like to re-establish his parental rights." A ripple of whispers buzzed through the courtroom. I could hear Monica exhale sharply beside me. I looked over at Julia. She didn't flinch.
She didn't blink.
She just sat completely still, her expression unreadable. After the session adjourned, I pulled Monica aside in the hallway.
"She's using him," I said.
"It's just another stall tactic." "She's desperate," Monica agreed. "But if Mark's stepping into this, we need to be thorough. I'll have our investigator dig into his history, find out what's real and what isn't." The days that followed revealed more than I expected. Monica's investigator uncovered a trail of attempts Mark had made over the years, calls, emails, even a custody petition when Julia was 5 years old. Every effort had been met with resistance. Claire had shut him out completely, denying every visit, returning every gift unopened, blocking him on every platform. She had crafted a narrative for years that Mark was a deadbeat who had vanished without a trace. But it was a lie. When I told Julia what we'd found, her lips trembled. "He didn't leave me?" she asked, barely audible. "No, sweetie," I said gently. "He didn't. He tried. Claire just never let him reach you." Tears slipped down her cheeks. But her voice, though broken, held a small note of hope. "I want to meet him, so we arranged it." They met at a little corner cafe on a Saturday afternoon. I sat a few tables away, pretending to scroll through my phone, heart hammering in my chest. Mark walked in slowly, eyes cautious, nervous energy clinging to him like static. Julia looked up. Their eyes met. He approached the table and sat across from her. "I never stopped thinking about you," he said. "Not for a single day." What followed was a conversation years in the making. Julia had questions. Lots of them. Mark answered with a quiet honesty that surprised me. At times she cried. At times she looked angry. But eventually, something softened in her expression. By the end of the hour, they were smiling. Tentatively, gently. When they stood to hug, I had to look away, blinking fast. And as Julia slowly began rebuilding a relationship with her father, Claire's image started to fracture. A few of her old friends began posting screenshots, messages Claire had sent privately, mocking Julia's therapy, calling her dramatic, and minimizing her suicide attempt. She'd written things like, "She needs to toughen up," and "I swear she does this stuff for attention." People started to question everything. Then came the biggest blow. Taylor, Claire's ex-boyfriend, came forward. He'd been silent for years, but after seeing the mess unfold, he contacted Monica and asked to help. He handed over damning evidence, voice recordings, screenshots, voicemails. Claire had, in her own words, called Julia a mistake, said she only kept her around because she was useful, and even bragged about using her daughter's mental health struggles to gain sympathy or favors, free services, money, attention. Monica brought it all to court. Claire's attorney tried to object, claiming context was missing, that the recordings were selectively edited, but the judge allowed them. The courtroom sat in stunned silence as Claire's voice echoed from the speaker. I can't believe how well this depression card works. Poor little me, raising a broken child on my own.
People eat that SHD up.
Asterisk. I felt sick. Then Mark was called to the stand. I was told I wasn't wanted, he said, voice firm. That Julia was better off without me. I was manipulated, pushed out, and made to feel like I was doing more harm than good.
But I never stopped trying.
I never walked away. He looked directly at Julia, tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, baby girl. I'm so sorry for all the birthdays I missed. For every tear you cried thinking I didn't care. Julia sobbed openly. I held her hand. She didn't let go. When I was called to testify, I said just one thing. All I did was what I wish someone had done for me when I was a child. Judge Patel sat in silence for a long time before speaking. Temporary guardianship will remain with Ms. Harper until a final evaluation is completed. Ms. Morgan is ordered to complete a series of parenting classes and undergo a full psychological evaluation. Further unsupervised contact with Julia is denied until all requirements are fulfilled. Claire looked like she had been punched in the stomach. Her face crumbled, her mouth opened, but no words came out. She didn't look at Julia. She didn't look at anyone. She just stared blankly at the wall behind the bench. As we walked out of the courtroom, I noticed a few photographers near the entrance. Claire's curated image had officially started to unravel in the public eye. But I didn't care about the drama, the rumors, or the headlines. All I cared about was Julia, and she was finally starting to heal. But Claire wasn't finished. It began with anonymous comments on my social media. She's not your daughter. You're sick. You'll pay for this. Then came fake accounts using my photo, posting cruel captions and slander. Some even messaged Julia saying, "You're a traitor," and "Your real mom loves you. You're just too blind to see it." It wasn't just online. One night, Julia came into my room, shaking, her phone in her hands. "She texted again," she whispered. "She said you'll go to jail. That she is proof. That she's getting custody back." My blood boiled. But I held Julia close and reassured her. "She's just trying to scare us. She can't touch you. I promise." We reported every message. Monica documented everything. But Claire escalated further. Within 1 month, we were hit with 3 false CPS reports, each one nastier than the last. One claimed I was emotionally abusive. Another alleged neglect. The third accused me of forging court documents to keep Julia from her real family. Each time, investigators showed up. Each time, they left with nothing. But the toll it took on Julia was undeniable. She began having panic attacks, clammy skin, racing heart, shortness of breath. Her sleep suffered. Her appetite faded. Mr. Abrams, her school counselor, stepped up. So did her therapist, who helped design a routine to give her structure and safety. I got a second phone, just for legal matters. We changed up our routines. I walked her to class when I could. Life became a quiet war zone. Then Claire went too far, again. A week after Julia's 16th birthday, she was walking to her early prep class when she spotted Claire across the parking lot, flanked by a man holding a printed document. Julia froze. The paper looked official, like a custody order. She did the right thing. She ran to campus security. The document was a fake. The man was someone Claire had hired to pose as a private investigator to serve a forged court order. They didn't make it inside the school. Police arrived within minutes and arrested both of them for fraud, impersonation, and attempting unlawful removal of a minor. That night, Julia crawled into bed beside me, her head on my shoulder, silent tears soaking my sleeve. "I don't want to be scared anymore," she whispered. "You won't be," I said. "We're almost there." And this time I believed it. That night, Julia didn't sleep. When I peeked into her room around midnight, I found her curled tightly under her blanket, her back to the door, the soft light from her lamp casting a warm glow across the room. Her shoulders trembled, and when I sat beside her and touched her hair, she didn't flinch, just whispered into the fabric covering her face. "She's never going to stop, is she?" Her voice was small, muffled, and almost defeated. I gently brushed her hair back, revealing her red, tear-streaked cheeks. "Yes, she will," I said softly, "because the truth is catching up to her. And this time, she doesn't get to rewrite it." And it truly was. In the days that followed Claire's failed ambush at Julia's school, new charges were filed: cyberbullying, stalking, harassment, and falsifying legal documents. Judge Patel didn't hesitate. She ordered a full psychiatric evaluation. Claire was soon admitted to a psychiatric facility under court order. The diagnosis hit like a final, brutal note in a long, chaotic symphony: narcissistic personality disorder with borderline traits and delusional thinking patterns. It shocked some. Not me. The woman I once called a best friend had spent years controlling, manipulating, and gaslighting her daughter, and everyone around her. This wasn't a bad week or a breakdown.
It was a pattern.
A structure. A way of life. From that point on, the court appointed a guardian ad litem for Julia, a neutral party to advocate solely for her best interest. Claire's psychological records were unsealed to support the ongoing case, and they painted a devastating picture. Her concern for Julia had always been performative. Her love was conditional. Her parenting reactive and rooted in control. Once the records became public, the silence broke. People who had once stood by Claire began stepping forward. Screenshots surfaced, messages in which Claire mocked Julia's suicide attempt, dismissed her therapy, and made cruel jokes about her need for attention. One woman named Rhonda, a former friend from Claire's parenting circle, admitted Claire had staged a minor fender bender once just to launch a GoFundMe. She'd raised nearly $3,000, claiming Julia needed an emergency dental procedure. It never happened. It was like watching a house of mirrors collapse. Monica compiled everything, every testimonial, every post, every message. When we returned to court, the air felt heavier, like even the walls were tired of Claire's games. Judge Patel didn't just extend my guardianship. She made it permanent. Claire was ordered to repay all funds she had fraudulently raised using Julia's name and story. More importantly, the court issued a permanent injunction barring Claire from representing Julia publicly, legally, or socially ever again. That meant no more concerned mother blog posts. No more dramatic social media monologues. No more emotional leverage disguised as motherly love. The day the ruling came down, we sat on the back porch, lemonade in our hands, and the spring breeze dancing through the wind chimes. Emma ran barefoot through the yard, and Mark sat beside Julia, talking to her about his clumsy college days. His wife, Karen, had brought a lemon pie and was setting it out on the patio table. Julia leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder. "I feel like I can breathe again," she said. "You can," I replied. "You're safe now." She tilted her head up to look at me. "It still hurts, though." "I know, sweetheart. But now you get to heal." She didn't say anything else. She didn't have to. That spring, Julia turned 17. This time, the birthday party wasn't about noise or decoration. It was about joy. We hosted it in the backyard, strung lights between the trees, and filled the air with barbecue smoke and laughter. My sister Kendall came with her kids, and Rob, my quiet, dependable neighbor who had become part of our chosen tribe, helped man the grill. Mark and Karen brought a cake they'd baked themselves. To Julia, with love, it read in careful blue icing. Julia laughed and cried when she saw it. Emma handed her a gift, a leather-bound sketchbook with her initials engraved on the cover. "So you don't forget how amazing you are when you're famous," she teased. That night, as we all sang Happy Birthday, I looked around the yard at the people surrounding Julia. And for the first time in a long while, I felt peace. This was family, not by obligation, but by love. Of course, Claire didn't disappear completely. She still tried. Anonymous accounts would pop up, leaving venomous comments under Julia's artwork. "You'll miss her when she's gone," or "You're not as special as they tell you." One email, sent to Julia's new school, claimed to be from a concerned relative warning about her unstable mental state. The school flagged it and contacted us immediately. Julia's therapist had already submitted evaluations for her admissions portfolio, so there were no questions. Just action. We'd built safeguards. And they worked. At the final custody hearing that summer, everything came full circle. Judge Patel reviewed the entire case. Months of documentation, years of history, and Julia's testimony. The courtroom was packed, but silent. Julia sat beside me, composed and strong. Claire entered quietly, her expression unreadable. She didn't even glance at Julia. The ruling was clear and final. I would retain full custody until Julia's 18th birthday. Mark was granted regular visitation, weekends, holidays, and shared milestones. As for Claire, she would only be allowed supervised contact, but only if Julia personally requested it. And if she violated any part of the agreement, access would be permanently revoked. Claire said nothing.
She didn't argue.
She just sat motionless, her hands folded in her lap, eyes staring at something that wasn't there. Julia didn't look at her. Not once. In the months that followed, our focus shifted to the future. Julia poured her energy into her art. Her portfolio blossomed. Portraits full of emotion, pain, and resilience. She submitted it to 5 colleges. 4 accepted her. She chose a small East Coast art program known for its trauma-informed curriculum. "I want to help kids like me," she told me. I burst into tears. I couldn't help it. We helped her pick out dorm supplies, debated over poster choices and bedding, and packed up box after box. She was so excited. I was so proud. Then, just a week before move-in, Claire crossed the line one final time. After a scholarship ceremony on campus, Julia reported seeing Claire near her building, accompanied by a man holding what looked like a court document. Julia immediately went to campus security. They acted fast. The document was a fake. The man was a hired imposter pretending to serve a custody order. Claire was arrested on the spot. This time, there were no delays. A new 5-year restraining order was issued within the week. And this time, Julia wanted to speak in court. She stood tall, hands steady, voice firm. "I am not your puppet," she said. "You used my pain as currency. But I've learned that healing doesn't need your apology. It just needs me to stop giving you power." She looked at the judge, then at Mark, then at me. "My name is Julia Anderson, and I am no longer afraid of you." I couldn't breathe. None of us could. When we walked out of the courthouse, Rob hugged her. Mark kissed the top of her head. Emma did a little bow and handed her a pretend trophy. Julia laughed, a real, unguarded laugh. She'd won. Move-in day arrived. We loaded her car and drove together. Mark, Karen, Emma, and I helped set up her dorm, her art, her coffee corner, her string lights. It felt warm and alive, just like her. Before we left, she handed me an envelope. "Don't open it until you get back," she said. That night, after dropping everyone home, I sat on my porch, heart full, and opened it. It was an invitation to her first student art show. Inside was a sketch, a woman holding a teenager's hand, standing beside 2 others. Below it, she'd written, "For Sarah, Emma, Mark, and Karen, my family, chosen and true. Thank you for giving me back my voice." I held it to my chest and cried, not because of what we'd survived, but because she had found herself. And we had found each other through fire, through heartbreak, through truth. Together.